What's good, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Summer Lunch Break. Today's episode is going to be rad because we sit down with a gal who keeps things really real. Whether she's throwing down behind the boat, catching a few laps at the cable, or grabbing a quick surf set, she does it with grace and some serious power. She lives her life without limits. It's Carro Djupsjö. Carol joins us to talk about her journey within the wake world and shares how the graphic on her 2022 Pro Model board, the Slingshot Contrast, came to be. Fighting through not one, but two ACL tears, Carol shares her story of injury, recovery, mental health, and of course, an amazing comeback. Grab your grub and let's bring her out. It's Carro Djupsjö.
You know what I'm really scared about is if the wakeboarders get too close to shore, they may use some people on the shore as bonking items.
Carro Djupsjö, welcome to Summer Lunch Break.
Thank you.
Thanks for being easy on me with the name. I put my practice in, but you know.
It's a tough one if you're not Swedish, that's for sure.
How can you say it for us just so I can hear it?
So Carro Djupsjö.
Oh, well, it sounds way prettier when you say it. Okay. We're just going to get started here. I do have to start the show with the most important question of the day. I know you're a different time zone, but I always ask what you had for lunch or what you're having for lunch today.
We went to Whole Foods today, so we picked up like so many things. So I can't really decide. There's just a bunch of stuff.
Too many things. Yeah, right. Whole Foods is like sensory overload for me. There's way too many good options. Okay,
you're fine.
We're going to start out with talking about your story and kind of how you got started wakeboarding and how it's led you to where you are today. So my first question is, how did you and when did you get into wakeboarding?
I started when I was 13 in Sweden. I think my dad actually came over to the US and pretty much bought a wakeboard at like Walmart or like a gas station. Like it was way back. Yeah. And there was I don't think it really even had made it to Sweden. Not very much anyway. So he brought it back to Sweden and we had a little like 50 horsepower outboard engine boat and we just started messing around on it. So that's how I started.
That's amazing. Were you eager to get behind the boat or was it like the normal, had to push you to do it?
I loved tubing. don't quote me. So it was like, it was so cold too. We had to, like wear wetsuits and stuff. So I had to use my brother's old wetsuit that was like too big for me. So it was really cold. But once I like started, I was hooked like pretty fast.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, that's incredible. I got my first wakeboard. I think my uncle got it for me at like a garage sale or something. And I swear to God, those are the best wakeboards because they've got magic in them or something.
Oh yeah. Ours had those like sandal straps over.
Oh my gosh.
That like not even proper bindings. You just like slid your feet in, and it was cool. I still have it.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's so cool. That's so rad.
Oh, yeah.
You'll have to send me a picture of it or something. I'd love to see it. Okay, so you mentioned being from Sweden. So I'd love to know kind of what it's like being from somewhere but not living there all the time.
Well, so for the past like 10 years, I've been going like back and forth to the US. But 3 years ago, I like fully moved. So I live here all the time now, but my whole family is back in Sweden.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. Like it's been an awesome, like I would go here and then I would go to Asia like in the winter and I'd go home and just kind of bounce everywhere and get a bunch of stamps in my passport. And it's been like really fun. Yeah. And then when COVID hit, that's when I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm staying here now.
Totally.
So, but it's been good too. Like now I really feel that made me like feel at home in North Carolina too, which is where I live right now.
That's really rad. Well, I wanted to ask you, out of all the places to move to do, competitive wakeboarding and to be a professional wakeboarding, why did you choose North Carolina?
It's such a long story. Do you have time for this?
Hear it. Yeah, let's do it.
I used to do the Florida thing. Like I lived in Florida 2014. Actually I lived in Florida in 2010. That was like the first time I went to the US. I did a season over there. And I loved like wakeboarding and the wakeboarding scene there, but it never like felt like home. And have you heard of Adam Fields?
That sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. Adam is a great wakeboard coach, and he actually came to Sweden when I was 16 and was like my first ever coach. And he lives here in North Carolina. However, he lives on Lake Gaston, which is a gorgeous lake for wakeboarding, but it's like in the middle of nowhere. So it's like that's all you can really do there, which is great. But I kind of wanted to live somewhere like a little bit more city, you know, have a couple restaurants maybe, and like
Whole Foods.
There's no Whole Foods on Lake Gaston. So I moved here, which is in Wilmington or Bretsville Beach, to ride with another one of our friends who has the wakeboard school here, and her name is Kara. So she runs a school called Shred the Gnar, and I knew she was like an awesome boat driver, and I was like, you know what, I need to move somewhere where I can train because Sweden is way too cold, and I kind of want to leave Florida. So here I am.
Here you are. Oh, wonderful.
Yep.
That's so rad. I think it's awesome that you found somewhere that works really well for you. You know, you've traveled all these places for wakeboarding, like you've mentioned. What is the coolest or the number one place that you have traveled for wakeboarding?
Everyone asks this, and it's so hard because there are so many places.
I'm so sorry.
Well, I love it here because like we live 5 minutes from the boat ramp. We ride on salt water, which I think is like, it's both a blessing and a curse. It's really cool because we have like a really unique, like there's like dolphins, you know, coming in the wake, jumping around and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But we have to clean the boats like every time we take them out. But otherwise I would say like Thailand or Philippines, like for cable has been really fun. Obviously Florida is awesome for boat riding. So I think those are probably the top four. And Sweden, of course. I mean, that's where it started. So
yeah, right. Awesome. Well, you mentioned, you know, liking riding cable and stuff too. Do you have a favorite between boat or cable? Because you crush it on both. So
thanks. Honestly, these days I'm leaning towards boat more. But that's probably just because I have, like I said, my boat is right here, so it's really easy. The closest cable is like an hour and a half away, and like to go to like some of the bigger parks, it's a pretty far ride. So lately it's been boat, but I love boat.
Okay, totally. Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your partnership with Heyday Boats.
Oh, yay.
When did that start?
In 2017. No, wait, 2019 is when we started. Yep. So I've been on for 3 years now.
So exciting. How has that experience been for you overall?
Oh, it's been such a cool like partnership. To be honest, when I started signing with them, they were a brand new company, or not living around for a couple years, but very young, and I had no idea really what to expect. And it's pretty crazy actually, because we signed and then I was meant to travel. I was at a contest in Europe, but I was meant to travel back here to film my like welcome to the team video.
Yeah.
And I ended up tearing my ACL like probably like weeks after we signed a contract, and I was like, oh no, is this gonna keep? We're still signing? Is this still good?
Yeah,
and they've been super. I know, and they've been super supportive and just been really cool to work with them because they've been so like rider focused. So they've listened so much to all our feedback. And like, I don't know if you saw the new boat they just came out with last year, the H22.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. Kind of just gives us, you know, some insider info on it, if you don't mind, you know, when you're ready.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so it's a 22-foot boat, and Heyday's motto is like, it's kind of where can you hear me with my contractors, by the way?
Yeah, you're good. Yep.
Okay, cool. They're going full send right now. But like Heyday, Heyday comes from like where I came from. They're like trying to make the boating wakeboard market more accessible. Because right now, like a lot of the bigger brands, like their boats cost more than this house that we just got, you know. And I like how they're coming from like they're removing all the unnecessary stuff and focusing on like the wake is great and like all the stuff that I need. Like it's kind of like an iPhone. Like I like it to be simple. I don't want a bunch of unnecessary stuff. I just want, you know, the important things, and I want it to be user friendly, and that's exactly what the H22 is.
Yeah, that's so rad. Because that's like the wakeboard specific model, right? Because don't they have,
It
is it
does
three?
both. It's
It
just
does
like
both.
the
Okay.
new.
The newest one.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
3 the preview series is called the WT Surf and the WT2. The H22 is like the next step. So it's completely redesigned.
That's so exciting.
Just has like, I don't know, you've probably seen them with like the cool like back seatings and
Yeah.
And the wakeboard wake, that is my favorite wakeboard wake out of all heydays for sure. But I mean, the WT series are good. I have a WT2 right now. But the H22 wake, yeah, I'm ready to get one. I'm sure I'll
That
will
is
soon. So
so
it'd be cool.
exciting. Do you get to like pick the colors and stuff for it?
I do, yeah. So it's
Oh my
gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's
This year
exciting.
we matched it. This year we matched my WT2 with my board. So they're both like, it's good. They're good companies.
I swear, when stuff matches, everything's better. Like if your vest matches, or I totally get it. God, that's so exciting. Well, I want to talk too about your wakeboard, the Contrast. That's, you've had it for, is it 2000? Oh, I remember the date now. I can't think of it. How long have you had that pro model?
2018, I think, was the first one.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. Or 2019. Yeah. So it's been a while too. No, and actually the crazy thing is the exact same thing happened to me with Slingshot. Like I signed with them in 2016 and I tore my ACL straight away on my other knee.
I cannot imagine what was going through your head when that happened.
Yeah, I think it's just safe to say I just shouldn't sign with anyone new, and just because I seem to be cursed.
Dangerous.
Yeah, but luckily, luckily, obviously, Slingshot, they've stuck with me through all this too. So it's really cool. And yeah, the Contrast this year, Sina with Copycats Club, we worked on the graphic together, and it came out super cool. With like, it has my hometown in the background as like a silhouette, and back in Stockholm, Sweden. And I really love it. She killed it.
That's so rad. I wanted to ask you about, how kind of that graphic developed. Was it just like Sina, take the wheel, you go, you do it? Or did you guys kind of work together? I mean, how did it work?
I was a huge pain in Sina's butt. Well, usually I start with like a Pinterest board. Like I don't have the like skills of creating something, but I love being inspired, and like creating boards is like the most fun thing. Like I take so much time and I really love it. So I sent her, I wanted it to be like my style has always been like a feminine style for boards, but like in the past there was a bunch of dudes making, what they thought was feminine stuff. And it's like, I was like, no, like you can still have like the typical girly colors and the girly stuff, but make it really cool. Like it doesn't. So that's always where I've been going. Like that's how like everything's with me. Like I like a lot of like, the traditional like pinks and teal and like that. That's just what I like. So this one I was like, I want to have a chick. I want her to be really cool, and I want her face to be like a half skeleton. And then Sina kind of we kind of like worked back and forth, and Sina actually did like the background and the colors, which I'm really stoked on, and then back and forth, and then here we are. So it's good.
Yeah, it turned out so awesome. She did an amazing job with that, so that's really exciting. You had mentioned Copycats Club, and I just kind of wanted to get, what does that organization kind of mean to you?
I love the Copycats Club because it's like something that the wakeboard scene has never seen before. And if I had Copycats Club when I started out, like, who knows? Like, it's so rad. She's doing all that, showcasing all the girls, and just like, I feel like, 10 years ago, it was this thing that like there could only be one girl on the teams, like all the team, like board riders, everything. They were like, well, there's only one girl. So it created this like cutthroat atmosphere where, like all the female athletes basically had to like climb on top of each other to try and get to the top. I think like now, especially recently, and like Copycats Club is like a big part of it, is just showing like how it's like such a good community. And what I always tell, like when I talk to like businesses and stuff too, is like I feel like women's wakeboarding is like I mean, I have no stats on this, but it's probably one of the fastest growing like segments in wakeboarding right now. So like
Mhm.
that's why I think a lot of companies are like investing in it, because they see so many women get into the sport, because it's like so much fun for everybody. So yeah,
Totally.
it's great. It's a great tool for sure.
Yeah, I think it's super rad that it just gives kind of a bigger picture of like what wakeboarding is. It's meant, go have fun and love who you're doing it with. So I think it's,
Hmm.
yeah, I definitely am very stoked on Copycats Club, and I follow it very closely because it's
Yeah.
kind of hard being like the only girl sometimes. You want to feel like you have community, and I think they do a really, really good job of that.
Yeah, no, I always order at least like 3 mags, because I know like I'm just gonna like give them out to some of the like little. My boyfriend runs a wakeboard school, and he has a lot of
Oh,
kids that
cool.
he coaches. So I'm always like trying to sneak it into one of their backpacks or something.
Yeah,
So
that's so awesome. And like that's
mhm,
so meaningful to the little ones too, especially that makes them feel really, really special, which is awesome.
yeah, it's cool for sure.
Well, while we talk a little bit about like women's wakeboarding copycats club, I want to ask you a question, and I want to word it correctly, so I'm going to read it. But being a female athlete, do you think it's important to recognize female riders as female riders, or should we just recognize them as riders? Like, do you think it's important that we make sure and like put attention on the fact that it is a female rider?
That's a really good question. I think that honestly, I don't think it really. I mean, it could go either way, but
Mhm.
I think if we do recognize them as female writers, then we need to talk about male writers too. Because
Mhm.
what has been bugging me in this industry for so long is that you'll have like best trick or like best rider, and then you'll have female best trick and female rider. So like the
Okay,
norm
yeah.
is like if you don't put anything in front of it, the norm is that it's like male. And like I
Mhm.
mean, some magazines still do it, and it's
Yeah.
like if we're doing that, we got to just start like in Sweden, we've come really far. And like our news reporters, whenever they like talk about like soccer is really big in Sweden. So when they talk
Yeah.
about like the national soccer team, they always say the national male soccer team these days, or national women's
Okay.
soccer team.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, and I think that's important because yeah, the norm can't just be, but no, if otherwise it's like, yeah, I mean, we're all writers in the end.
Yeah.
So as long as you're equal, then I don't care.
Totally. Totally. I like that. No, that makes a lot. I've never actually really thought about it like that. They don't differentiate that it's a male. They always say writer, but then when it's a girl, they make sure to
Hmm.
say. That's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think keeping
And I
it
mean,
even would be a good idea.
because I also think like it makes sense to be informative, like, yeah, like female writer, I have no problem with that. But then be
Mhm.
informative about the men too.
Yeah. Yeah. Best trick, male best trick, female best
Exactly.
trick. Yeah.
There
You
you
gotta do
go.
one or the other. We're not doing half of one and half of the other. We should make it even.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay. And so I want to ask too, what do you hope to see more of from the women's wakeboarding scene as well as the men's? So let's hear about women's first, but then also I want to ask what you want to see from the men's side as well.
I want to see more of what we talked about Copycats Club, like just everybody doing whatever they want. Like I think that's the best way to like really get the passion in the sport out there.
Yeah.
And like I just love technology with how we can like share like whatever we're doing super easy. So yeah, just being winching, boat, whatever it is, and just more of it. And I
Yeah.
think it goes for the men's side too. Just like I love everything that's different because I've been in the sport for so long. So whenever someone does something new, like whether it's just going to a cool spot or like just like John Dryling, I really like what he's been doing recently with his little small wake stuff. I think it's
Yeah.
really cool.
It's been so rad to watch him do that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, just new stuff.
Totally. Totally. I like it. New stuff. That's exciting. And I hope to see some new stuff too. But yeah, that mini wake stuff is so rad. And I feel like
Mhm.
it's very inclusive because it's like, see, you don't need the huge boat to make the big wake. You can still have fun on whatever boat you're behind. So that's
Exactly.
definitely totally rad. Well, you mentioned technology. You're just like, it's like I showed you my questions before. You're making this easy on me. But I want to
Sounds
talk
good.
about social media and your presence on there. I've followed you for a few years now, and I love your feed. I love, just your
Aw.
personality online. It's very real, it's very honest. Do you have a focus on that with yourself about how you share your life online?
Yeah, of course, social media is a big part of the industry. So of course I do. And then it's like, yeah, it's kind of easy once you start being yourself on there, because then
Yeah.
you just keep doing what you're doing every day and kind of share it. So definitely.
Totally, totally. Well, I want to ask, let's see, do you think, or why is transparency so important online?
I think, well, for many reasons, like for me now, I've started to gain a pretty large following, and I feel like, I want people to understand that like life isn't always rainbows and butterflies. And I've had, yeah, like I just see a lot of let me see how I can phrase this. Like mental health has been a big part of my life, like
Mhm.
especially like obviously it's a big part of everybody's life. But when you've been through some stuff, like everyone goes through stuff, and I don't know if did you hear about my friend Benjamin Hoppe? He's a wakeboarder who was part of the Bredas crew. Do you know them?
Yeah, yeah.
So Benjamin actually chose to end his life a couple years ago, and it just made me realize how little we talk about mental health, especially male athletes.
Yeah.
But in general, like everybody. So I think it's like really important to show that like everybody goes through stuff, just so we
Mhm.
stop comparing so much.
Totally.
So I think that's the most important reason, is like just
Yeah,
to be real. And obviously we're not going to share everything. Like
totally.
nobody, like we still always have private stuff. Like I don't even share everything with like my best friend, but
Mhm.
it's about finding that good balance where you feel good, but you're also staying true to your audience, basically.
Yeah, I had touched on this a little bit in my interview with Nick Rappa. He did a great job kind of talking about the importance of just, you know, do we have to do these big in-depth things? No, but just talking about it and being aware of it and letting people know that, like, even though this is kind of a, it's all on your shoulders type of competitive sport, you have this
Mhm.
community around you that's there for you and to support you. So that's definitely, and social media can have a big impact on that. And yeah, just kind of like you said, it's important we make it known that we're aware of it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely. And for me, I can't really, I don't like following people whose life is always perfect either, or
yeah,
like, because I'm just like, okay, yeah, like, can we just see this is just staged, So
yeah,
it's also, I mean, it makes it more interesting when you have a little bit of roughness in there.
totally. Well, and I've noticed too, like personally, if I will get like embarrassing videos of myself or like a photo or something, and I'm more excited to share that than I am of like, oh, I look good in that photo. Like I would rather share the fun stuff because it makes me happy, and I feel like it makes more people happy. So
You definitely
totally.
get more people like messaging you when you post something stupid on
Yeah,
there, for sure.
right. Yeah, I know, totally. We've just started filming like these boat walkthroughs, and my favorite part of it is, yes, editing the walkthrough and making it look good for like YouTube, but I love the bloopers. They're my favorite part. They're so fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you can make a whole video just with bloopers. That's
Oh,
good.
absolutely. Yes, it's awesome. Okay, so I want to kind of, we talked a little bit about kind of just challenges that you face. And you've mentioned it previously while we've been talking, but you went through a pretty severe ACL injury. And I know you've told the story and I've listened to it, and I'm not intruding, but I would like to kind of know, from the moment it happened to where you are now, what has that journey been like for you?
Well, so I've had two ACL tears.
Okay. Okay.
So if we start with the first one, it was in 2016, and it was definitely the hardest one, because up until
Yeah.
that point, I just been like, wakeboarding was my entire world. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know anything else, and I would like, from the moment I woke up till the moment I went to sleep, like all I did was wakeboard and think about wakeboarding and watch wakeboard videos, and then all of a sudden I couldn't do it anymore. And
Yeah.
it was really hard, because it was my whole identity. And I was like, I am Wake Caro. Like, I don't know who I am if
Yeah.
I'm not Wake Caro. And yeah, it was hard, but when I started going through it, it forced me to, like, I went back to college because right after high school, moved over, like left everything, moved over to Florida to try and, become a pro wakeboarder and really go for it. And so I never went to college then. So I went back 5 years later. And now I have a college degree, which I probably never would have had if I didn't hurt myself. And it just forced me to step back and really focus on why I wakeboard, rather than you get so caught up in social media likes or contest results or sponsor deals. And it really forced me to focus on why I even want to do this. And when I couldn't do it anymore, that's all I could think. It wasn't I wish I could wakeboard so I could, get a sponsor contract. It was no, I just want to feel the feeling of being on my board again.
Totally.
So,
yeah. So after healing from that first one and then having the second one happen, I'm imagining that was devastating. How did you get through that?
Well, so I had a couple years, I think I had a whole contest season, and then I had my re-tear in the first contest of the next season. And I knew immediately that it was my ACL. It felt exactly the same. It was at the Red Bull Wake Duel in Lithuania, and it was really hard that first 24 hours because I had to sit and watch the contest that I was going to compete in. And I was just like, oh, great. But then I was able to go home and have surgery really soon after. And since I went through it all before, I kind of was like, okay, well, I know what to do now. The first one was definitely harder. The second one, I was like, okay, well, I'll just do the same thing and I'll be good again. But there were definitely times where I was like, maybe I need to quit this. And people would tell me too, they're like, how many you've had so many? Because I had 3 surgeries on my first knee to fix that injury.
Wow.
And then I had to have 2 on my other knee for the second one. So it was not your smooth sailing rehab. It was back and forth. So of course I had days where I was like, man, I just want to walk. I just want to be able to walk without pain. But then you just take it day by day, and then before you know it, I was just back. And then I started wakeboarding again, and it was always actually from that point I was like, you know what, I don't know if I'll come back to competing. I just want to, every day I was like, I just want to get better. And then I started wakeboarding. I was like, well, I just want to try this trick again. And then I did that. I was like, oh, maybe I can try this trick. And then it just kind of snowballed. And then before you know it, I was like, oh, I want to compete again. I think I'm gonna go. So that was that.
Yeah, that's amazing. What was it like, strapping back into your board that first time back out after that long, hard recovery?
Oh, it's the best feeling. Just the first times I did it too, I was just carving. I was very cautious coming back because I saw so many people go right back in and just have that re-tear. So I had a week of just carving, the next week of doing ollies, fully building everything up, but just carving. We forget, this might sound stupid, we forget how fun it is to just look at the water going under your board and just carve on it.
Have fun out there.
Yeah, it's such a simple joy. So it was amazing.
Well, I love to hear that you've made it. I mean, hear this in the right tone. That's a horrible thing to happen, and you make it sound like this beautiful experience, which I love that so much. It's so wonderful that you've taken something that was so difficult and you saw the good in it. So that is really rad. And I think more people need to just look down at the water and enjoy it and realize that go ahead. No, you go.
I was gonna say, don't get me wrong though. There was definitely times in my rehab where I was crying on the bathroom floor, thinking my life is over, just to go back to this mental health thing. It wasn't all. No. When you're in it, you can't always see that it turns out great. But like I've said, actually, I don't know if you've seen this, but if I could go back and not go through my injuries right now, I would still choose to go through my injuries.
That's amazing.
They just opened up so much more. They made me grow so much and made me appreciate wakeboarding so much more than I was doing. So
totally.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that story. That was really, really special. I want to kind of talk about, we're coming into the next season. 2022 is upon us. In terms of wakeboarding, what goals do you have for this upcoming season and year?
Well, I just got my invites to Masters, which
Yay,
is
that's so
really
exciting.
exciting. I'm super stoked on that. So that will be the first contest, and then I actually got invited to the World Games, which is a IWWF
Cool.
event,
Yeah.
which is every 4 years, and this will be my third one. So I've been doing this a while.
Yeah.
So those are like my two biggest contest goals, but really, I've always, or like lately, I've been just really, like I told you, I want to try and think of new stuff and like
Yeah.
work on new projects, big or small. So I'm really excited to focus on, like, I bought a new camera this year and
Oh,
just like,
yay.
just try and get more fun content out, because that's where my passion is, like being here and writing and or traveling and writing, more recording than the contests. So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna do a couple comps this year, but my focus is definitely shifting towards, like just having more fun out there.
I love that. That's so exciting. Well, I also want to ask, for 2022, what about personal goals that you have? I know you just bought a house and we're renovating and that kind of thing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It seems like you guys are doing a lot to the house. I think I'm right on that one. So what's kind of the biggest deep breath? What's like the biggest project overall for the house that you're like most excited for?
Well, so we bought a house that has been completely neglected because that's the only way we could afford it in this area.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of it ourselves. We're redoing like everything. Like,
that's amazing.
All, like the floors, the bathrooms, the kitchen, painting, everything. So that's taken up a lot of time. Luckily it's off season now, so like I've been able to spend a lot of time on it. So that is actually huge, because it's been, like I told you, I was living out of my board bag for like over 10 years, where I would just go everywhere and I could never find a place where I really wanted to settle down and live. And then now I met my boyfriend here, and I love ocean surfing, and we live 5 minutes from the ocean. So yeah, this is huge. This is like probably the biggest step, like personally, that I've taken like in my life, I would say.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That is so rad. That's so cool, dude, that you have ocean surfing right next to you. And then I noticed you snowboard a lot too. Where do you do most of your snowboarding?
A lot is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I love snowboarding. I grew up going to the Alps in Europe like every winter. And this year we went out to Park City for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
which was
so
fun.
Exciting. That's so exciting. I know, we're like in Oregon here, at least we're kind of in that weird, like we're shifting from snow to like water, and I'm just like, okay, I just want to be on the boat. I'm over it.
Yeah, you're ready for the
I'm ready to go.
melted water.
Yeah, totally. Well, 2022 sounds like it's going to be a really, really exciting year for you. So that's awesome to hear. And I do love to hear that you're kind of, putting a focus on just being creative and finding, the fun in wakeboarding, which is so rad. And I think that's definitely a good shift that the industry needs, just to focus on, like, it is fun and there's so many more families involved with it now. So that's really rad to hear.
For sure.
But yeah, going into 2022, I just want to wish you all the best. And I want to thank you very, very, very much for joining us on Summer Lunch Break today.
Oh, for sure. It was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your story, and we'll see you on the water.
Sounds good, girl. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.